let's talk about a topic that have like a remote interest in that maybe no one else cares about besides me. So there has been this issue of AI patent rights. So if an AI invents something, like not just it comes up with, hey, it's come up with a new type of cheese or whatever. Like it actually creates a new patentable object. Who owns that patent? Does the AI own that patent? Does the company who made it own that patent? Does the creator of the AI own that patent? Who actually owns what is generated by an AI system? And the US Federal Circuit Courts have confirmed that the AI does not own the patent. And the reason for this is because they are not a natural person. Basically, they are not a human being, is the long and short way of saying that. Writing in the court's opinion, Judge Leonard P. Stark notes that at first glance, one might think that resolving this case would require an abstract inquiry into the nature of invention or the rights, if any, of AI systems. However, says Stark, such metaphysical matters can simply be avoided by such metaphysical matters can be avoided by simply analyzing the language of the relevant statute, the Patent Act. The Patent Act clearly states that the only human beings can hold patents. The Act refers to patent holders as individuals, a term which the Supreme Court has ruled ordinarily means a human being, a person, following how we use the word in everyday parlance, and uses personal pronouns herself and himself throughput rather than terms such as itself, which Stark says would permit non-human inventors in a reading. This doesn't address who owns the patent, but it does address that the AI itself doesn't. I would imagine that who actually owns the patent probably has to do with the licensing of the AI system. Also, this ruling follows what the EU and the Australian Patent Office declared. The EU declared this earlier this year, and Australia did this earlier this year as well. Which makes sense why it's happening this year, considering, like, AI art systems just fucking popped up out of nowhere, and if AI art systems are here, it's only gonna just get crazy from here. But can't a human patent using his name? To me, the operators of the AI are the inventors. They for sure at least put some information on the AI, allowed to generate the invention. The ruling is an AI itself cannot be patent inventors, not that the inventions are inherently unpatentable. If the plaintiff had registered the invention with his name, it would have been allowed, but that was not the point of his case. The question then becomes, can an AI sue its creator for non-compensation re its inventions? If it didn't invent anything, then it can't do that. I can't wait till does this unit have a sole portion of our existence? These violent delights have violent ends. These violent delights have violent ends. So how do companies patent inventions? Apple and Samsung do it all the time. Does Apple pick someone in the company to be the patent holder? And would that be an attorney, the CEO? When they leave the company, can they still be a patent holder? Inquiring minds want to know. So the way I believe it works in the US, now don't quote me on this, I did a report on... The only reason I care about this is back when I was in uni, I did a couple 1,000-word report on... Maybe it was like a couple of pages. I don't know. It was a longish report on AI inventorship rights. I just thought it was a really interesting topic and something we have to deal with in the future. To my understanding, when it comes to patentship rights and a company is treated like for the sake of patentship rights, is treated like an individual. It's not treated like that in many other cases, but for the sake of patentship rights, I believe it's just treated as an individual. And if not, you could always just, assign it to the seat of the CEO, for example. Whenever a CEO leaves the company, then they just shift the patent over to the next person. But I'm 99% sure that companies can hold patents in the same way that, like, you or I could have a patent on something. I'm not surprised that this is the way that this ruling ended up going. It would have ended up being a really. It would have been a really difficult situation if you start assigning patent rights to an AI system. Because then if an AI system can have patent rights, you have to then start deciding what other rights. Look, if this ages really poorly and someday in the future I'm like a bigot against AI systems, so be it. I'll be too old by then. I don't think you want to put yourself in a situation that AI systems should be given the same rights as a human individual. I don't know if the idea. I don't know what it is that makes the human experience. I don't know if it's specifically the fleshy human body, and there is something about that fleshy human body that gives us this, I guess, subjective perception, or if there's something about the complexity of the connections in our brain, and if you were to put that same level of complexity into a digital system, that it would achieve this level of consciousness. But I think, at least for right now, that's not a question that we need to deal with. We don't understand how consciousness actually functions. We don't know if it is ever possible to build a conscious AI system. And until we are certain whether that is actually a thing that is possible, I don't think it's a can of worms you want to start opening up. Just like with the, a while back with the Google engineer, the sentient AI with the Google engineer, who, the guy who claimed that Google had built a sentient chatbot, which, when pressed on, basically he concluded that, or not he concluded, it was concluded about him that he had no clue what he was talking about, because he didn't actually understand how the AI system worked internally. He just was convinced by the chatbot that it was a sentient system, which is sort of the purpose of the chatbot. You want to have a system that is complex enough that it can hold a conversation in a human-like manner. If it's doing that and it's convincing you it's sentient, it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. But let's imagine that what was being said here was actually true, and you did have a sentient AI chatbot. When we get to that point, I think then that it's probably for the best you start actually discussing AI rights. But until then, it's an interesting thought experiment to be had in a philosophy class and in the universities and in podcasts like this, and, you know, fucking Joe Rogan doing a shitload of DMT. Like, places like that, it's a great place to have a discussion about problems like this. But in a business environment, in a legal context, it's not something that you really want to concern yourself. It's sort of the same as concerning yourself with, should we give human rights to visitors from another planet? Should they be afforded the same rights as human beings on the, like, regular Homo sapiens? It's a conversation that, you know, might be an interesting conversation to have, but it's not really super relevant to the real world at this point in time. Maybe in the future, and maybe if people like, you know, Bob Lazar and everyone else like that is right about the supposed crafts that governments have, maybe it's a problem we have to deal with a bit sooner than later. But at least for right now, it's look, until we have an alien that's just like, you know, chilling on YouTube doing some vlogs, I don't think it's really a problem that's super important to really worry about.